Welcome back to another episode of the Pain, Performance, and Pohada podcast. This is another bonus episode, and I wanted to celebrate the life of somebody who is really, really important to me. And ultimately, none of this physical therapy thing, whatever you want to call it, would even exist without this woman. I want to talk about a mentor, a friend, family, Kathy Kumagai. She passed away from a very rare form of lung cancer about 4 years ago from the day I'm going to post this, February 15th. And I'll never forget the text finding out that she finally passed. I'm trying not to get too emotional about this, but I think it's important. It gives a lot of context about me and what my values are and how much of an impact she did. And I just want to honor her and share some of her light. If you guys have listened to previous episodes, when I first applied to PT school, I really was dead set on going to Cal State Northridge. I went there for undergrad. I worked with the director as an aide. My boss had taken CSUN students the entire time I was an aide there, and hopefully with the letter of recommendation, I had decent grades, not great, not elite, but good, and I had loads of experience. So I was hoping I was going to get in. The year that I applied to PT school, all of the state schools in California had finally transitioned all of their programs from a master's to a doctorate program. So Cal State schools at the time were really affordable to go to versus the private schools. Barring that, also, that Cal State Northridge was also about 25 minutes from my hometown. I went there for undergrad. It's kind of a natural progression. Like, hey, go here, be local. Don't have to, go out of town, pay for rent, keep things relatively cost effective. Not to mention, the school itself, the academics were cheap. So although they transitioned, it was still much cheaper than a majority of the other private school programs at the time. So I believe when I applied, Cal State Northridge was like $32,000. For the master's program, it jumped up to like 70 something, which is still much cheaper. Anyway, didn't get in. Gutted. Absolutely devastated. Did not get in. Didn't get an interview. Nothing. State system gets so many people applying. They don't even have an opportunity to do that. If your grades are not 4.0, they're like, fuck off. Go away. So after not getting into there or any of the other schools I applied to except for APU, Azusa Pacific reached out to me. I got an interview, and I was like, yes, I know if I get an interview, I can talk to somebody. They can know that despite my grades, I'm like fairly okay with people and I'm not a complete idiot. Like, I just need to like talk to somebody. So I remember at the time I was racing. I was supposed to go to a national for BMX racing. It was down in Chula Vista at the Olympic Training Center. I had planned on going, but I got this interview, and I was like, well, I got to miss a day. Like, I'm not missing this. This is my career. So drive down to APU, get my interview, do a little bit of a tour, end up meeting actually some of my greatest friends on our tour, coincidentally. Get into my interview, and there are two women there, and one of which is Kathy Kumagai. Kathy Kumagai is a radiant ball of energy. She is just so warm, so inviting. I was so nervous going into this interview, and she just made me feel right at home right away. And I had this thing where I was like, if I can make my interviewer laugh, not just trying to be like a jokester, but like if I can make her laugh, I think this is going to go well. And made her laugh. We were just like shooting it up, had an absolute blast of a time. And, come to find out later that I had been accepted. And so I later got to talk to her, and she's like, Nick, like we know, pretty much on paper whether or not you guys are going to be a good fit for this program. But I knew within a couple minutes of talking with you. Like, you're going to be perfect for this. Like, you just have the right personality. I know you're willing to work hard. And so it was cool to hear that, you know, in retrospect. And that was the start of my relationship with Kathy. And Kathy served many pivotal points in my life throughout my career. That was just the first one. I had a hard time in PT school. I was not the smartest person in school. I don't take tests well. I crush my labs. I'm really good in person, but tests are hard. And I remember having a really tough time in ortho, and my ortho professor, I didn't do particularly well on a test, and basically, I'm not going to get into the severe details, but said something that was pretty impactful, that, you know, along the lines of like, you're not going to be a successful ortho physical therapist. You know, if you can't pass these tests, you know, you can't crush these tests, you're not going to be good enough to do this. And I remember hearing that and just being absolutely devastated. I wanted to do ortho so bad. That's what I worked in. You know, I wanted to be successful. So to hear that from one of your professors is pretty rough. Now, Kathy is truly a unicorn, because not only is she a board certified orthopedic clinical specialist, which is what I have, she's also a board certified orthopedic neuro specialist. So she could have easily taught our ortho program, but she taught neuro because she's amazing at that too. So Kathy's good at everything. Her name is on countless research. She's fellowship trained. She's incredible, nothing short of incredible in terms of academia. And I remember talking to her afterwards, and I was pretty gutted, because I really didn't think I was going to make it. I didn't think I was going to I thought I was going to fail out of school, you know, the whole thing. And I remember just her being so encouraging and being like, hey, like, don't let this dictate the rest of your career. Do you want to be good at this thing? And I said, yes. She's like, there are ways to be good at this thing and maybe not necessarily align with what this particular professor thinks. You can still be successful in ortho if you want to be. You just got to get through this class. So, you know, I ended up getting through ortho, and, you know, I crushed my labs and all the in-person stuff, and I never had any issues with my rotations. And ultimately she was right. But I remember being so down. Like, I was like, I'm just going to drop. Like, I'm going to fail out of this. This ain't going to work. And during that same first year, she also took me under her wing, along with a couple of her students, to help out with research collecting, which was really cool because it was upperclassmen who had done that. And she kind of took me under her wing at that time. And I'll never forget her just making me feel so welcome. And, you know, anytime I needed advice, needed a word of encouragement, her office was always open. I could hear her laugh down the hallway. And she was just always so supportive during really, really hard times. And, you know, we eventually just got to know each other a little bit more and spent more time together once I finally got to her neuro class. And, you know, even though neuro wasn't really the thing for me, she was actually one of the people that encouraged me to pursue a residency during my last rotation. My last rotation of school, I ended up doing a specific technique called PNF, or proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitation. There is a program in Vallejo, California at the Kaiser there that is internationally renowned, and a lot of acute rehab gets sent there because it's like the regional spot for Kaiser. So you have to basically qualify to get here. And she encouraged me to do that. And I wouldn't have necessarily done it, but I ended up falling in love with the spinal cord team. That's what I ended up doing, was working with spinal cord unit for the next 6 months. And, you know, it's a little bit more physical, but really got good with my hands, my manual techniques, and being able to learn this like different system before I ended up going into residency after graduating. And then Kathy technically played a role in even meeting my wife. You know, my wife, Kate, was in the cohort above me And we were just kind of friends during school. I was in a relationship at the time, so everything was very platonic, just homies. And then during my residency year, her fellowship year at Kaiser, we had some shared classes, and Kathy definitely was a catalyst in us kind of, linking up. And Kathy not only played a huge role in my life, but also my wife's. And she was actually the person who ended up marrying us. I ended up circling back later, getting into APU's fellowship program, in which Kathy was the director for. So she's been a huge pivotal role throughout literally this entire career. And, I'm just one of thousands of students and people that she impacted. She was always so warm, so loving, and just would do anything for another person. Whether it was buy you a breakfast burrito so you could sit through a class, whether it was just give you the warmest hug, whether it was just getting you to laugh or just tell you you'll be fine. And that was her catchphrase. But she was just such a light. Whether you believe in God or a creator, she was the best representation of what Christ should be on earth. And she just loved everybody so much. And she could just brighten up a room and make you feel like the most unbelievable person, like you're the only person on this earth. And like I said, she did this to a lot of other people. I fortunately like to say that I was close with her, and, being able to say yes to, marrying my wife and I, like, I know that doesn't just happen with how busy her schedule was. But I truly feel blessed, and I am honestly a better person because of just knowing her. And I'll never forget a conversation that we had, because I said something like, man, Kathy, one of these days I just want to have, 10% of, the knowledge that you have, because she's just so smart. She's got so much. And she's like, Nick, the knowledge is important. Be excellent at what you do, but be sure that you're living your life. Go make babies, go have a family, have balance, do the things that really fill you up. And starting this business was a huge reason. She's a huge reason for me starting this. It aligned with being able to be a better father, a more present husband, and still serving the community that I love and being excellent at it. The jiu-jitsu community does want to train, and I want to continue to give them the best possible opportunity to be able to do that forever. And I just hope that the effort that I'm putting in is just a small fraction of what she did to love on others, hype them up, give them the support that they needed. And I hope that the way that I treat other people, the way I interact with people is just a small glimpse of honoring how she was when she was here on this earth. But Kathy, and if you can hear me, you're the best there ever was. Thank you for everything. Thank you guys for listening to this. This is about as open as I've ever been on a podcast and with most people. She's an awesome lady. Truly, truly one of a kind. But thank you for sitting through another episode of the Pain, Performance, and Pohada podcast. Enjoy this bonus episode. If you liked it, if you like the other episodes, rank and review 5 stars. Share with a buddy. But until then, see you next time. See you.